Hey, I'm Michael, and this is Michael in the Middle. It's an intergenerational relational podcast for people who are interested in better human interaction. I'm glad you're here. Sammy Hagar said he couldn't drive 55. I don't know how many people are going to get that old musical reference, but this is episode 55. I know you're a lover of fine cars and occasionally may exceed
I got it covered.
You got it covered. You got a way to handle it. This is Gary Barker. He's a dear friend of mine of many years, and like a lot of my guests, my first meeting with Gary occurred around our mutual connections to Trevecca Nazarene University here in Nashville. And Gary, I'm so happy you're here. I mean, this is just awesome, dude.
It is.
Yeah.
Feels like it's coming full circle.
So I know you live in Tampa, Florida now, but as I do with virtually every guest I've ever had on, it's the way we kind of dive in is just say, hey, tell me a little bit of your story and ultimately how you got in the middle of doing what you're doing now. Because what I know about Gary's story is that there's a lot of twists and turns, and almost all of them have turned out really well.
So far, so good. Not perfect, but I'll take it.
There may have been a magic trick or two that were exposed, as, gimmicky or whatever. But no, I kid. I one of the ways that I best remember Gary is that in younger years, he was very involved in, you had a magic shop.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And when did you do your first magic trick?
I did my first magic trick when I was a child. We had a magician and a ventriloquist, Mark Wade, come to the school.
Okay.
And went to get my hair cut. And right next door to the barbershop was a library. So I convinced my parents, let me go look for a magic book. And I got the bug. And I did performing in shows through middle school, through high school, performed in our little local theater.
Yeah.
And in summer of '89, I came to Florida for just a mini vacation after high school.
Okay.
And I met this young guy named Scott Humston.
Oh my goodness.
And I met Scott and he said, yeah, I'm getting ready to go to college. I said, where are you going? He said, Trevecca. I said, me too. And then all through college, I enjoyed magic and have made a lifelong friend with Scott.
I got to get Scott here on the pod as well. We've talked about it at different points, and as we talked about even while we were hanging out yesterday, there were fits and starts, especially during 2024 for me. Still kind of processing the death of my father in particular, but really the fact that my wife and I, over the space of about 2.5 years, lost all four of our parents, and it's interesting to think about, and maybe we can talk about this in a little more detail later, about how life events get in the way of the events that you really had planned on, executing. And
sure.
So this is exciting for me to kind of be getting back in the game with Michael in the Middle. And it is episode 55. I mean, that's not nothing,
No, that's great.
Over the course of, our first one was in August of 2022. So we're almost 2.5 years into this process. And I want to give credit to my friend Greg Ruff, who came over here to the house today to kind of help lend some of his expertise. But Greg interviewed me for the very first Michael in the Middle. It was all about why I got into this, and finding your why is maybe one of the most important things we can do, whether one is deeply involved in matters of faith and their own personal experience and their walk with God. I think conventional wisdom has shown that if a person doesn't know why they're doing something, then they're just going to kind of end up aimlessly wandering along, finding out, well, what am I going to do next? So tell me, go back, I asked you where you did your first magic trick. You said Ohio. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ohio, born and raised in Youngstown. And in fourth grade, my family decided they were going to get a new start, sell everything that we owned, and head to Florida. My parents promised me that the first night they would stop at a hotel with a pool.
Oh, nice.
That was a big deal. And
yeah.
so
hotels used to advertise we have
oh
a
yeah,
pool.
that was big thing.
It was in the neon,
yeah,
and color TV.
And so we stopped in Columbus, Ohio. So we made it about 3.5 hours.
Moving to Florida,
and stopped and spent the night in the pool and had a great time. And my parents decided, why be in a hurry? So we stayed a second night. I graduated from Grove City High School, which is a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. And so I finally, as an adult, moved to Florida in 1995. So it took a number of years and a detour through Texas, but eventually even moved my parents down. So the trip that they started in 1979 to come to Florida finally culminated. It just took a few extra years to get down
but
there.
At least you had the swimming pool that night.
We did, and I was happy.
That's amazing. So Grove City is just south of Columbus, right?
Yeah, it's on the southwest side of Columbus.
Okay, and it's an interesting area up there to me. Ohio State University is such a dominant presence in the Columbus area, but there's a lot more to life in that Columbus area, right?
Than just very Ohio State. So. Very much so. It's really a great city. You have a very nice downtown area, but all the way around the city, they have a loop of 270 as the freeway. And then all the way around, you have all these communities and suburbs. They each have their own different flavor, different things that they're proud of.
Yeah.
Bobby Rahal, when he first
won
the Indianapolis 500, he's from the Columbus area. Yeah. And Jim Truman, who sponsored it with True Sports, is from there. So lots of great things in the city other than the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Are you a fan of the Buckeyes? I mean,
I always root for the home team. Now I'm a bit of a rebel. Okay. So when I was young, I would root for Michigan.
That's hilarious.
Just because.
Yeah. So you're in Tampa there, close to the University of Southern Florida. I mean, but in Florida, the people who follow D1 athletics, I mean, those allegiances are pretty strong, aren't they?
They are. And we're torn a little bit. We have people in the family that are Gator fans, that are Seminole fans. Our son Jordan went to UCF, so go Knights.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Bulls are our home team.
Sure.
So sometimes they play aggressive like a bull. Sometimes they get slaughtered like a bull. So
yeah. That's very good. That's very good. Yeah, they had a really good run there for a little while. But
they did.
It's been tough lately. The Tampa Bay area is one of my favorite spots in the entire country. I mean, I love flying into the Tampa airport. It's
one of the best in the country.
It really is. There's a lot to like about Clearwater and St. Pete Beach and all of that. It's a great area. So I do want to ask you, given where you are now in your life, what were some of the markers as you were a younger man kind of coming up and ultimately when you made the decision to come to Nashville to go to college, what are some of the things that you remember that still sort of impact you today?
So in full transparency, I think a lot of us spend a lot of time running. And so I would say that is a marker that my whole life has been that. Sometimes I'm running away from things and sometimes I'm running toward things.
Okay.
And as I've gotten older, hopefully I've gotten a little wiser.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I have a great family. My father, who passed away in February, he had a rough childhood. His dad worked for the police department, but alcohol abuse and substance abuse, and there was a lot of abuse in the family. And so my dad was running. And so my dad graduated Boardman High School, asked my mom, who was a senior in high school, to marry him. They went away on spring break in April and got married. at 19 and
Wow.
18.
Wow.
A
Wow.
year later, they had me.
Okay.
So, I love my parents. They did a great job, but they were learning as they went, and so there were many people in my life that helped. Don Bowman was a mentor of mine, and
Cool.
almost like a spiritual father. Um, and so he really helped me. He had a pivotal moment for me. I was in high school. I was at the church hanging out before youth night, and must have been complaining a little bit and very self-absorbed.
Okay.
And he looked at me, and I'll never forget it. I know we were right outside of his office door, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, when are you going to get off your roller coaster ride and
Mm.
realize it's not all about you?"
Wow.
And it cut,
Sure.
but he loved me, and I knew he loved me, so he had full permission to speak into my life, and that was a beginning of a life of figuring out that it's not all about me, and how am I gonna be better,
Yeah.
but not be better just for my benefit,
Yeah.
but be better for others.
Mm.
How am I gonna learn to live a life of service and of value?
Yeah.
And at the time, servant leadership wasn't a buzzword, wasn't
Yeah.
even being
Yeah.
used or talked about.
Yeah.
But he really challenged me. Who are you going to be? And I spent a lot of my adult years trying to figure that out and how to be different. And it really all started with that challenging remark from a mentor of mine. But you know what? He cared enough to risk offending me so that he could help me, and I'll forever be grateful for that moment.
What's something you could say to people? And of course, we're going to talk about what you are doing now with the Maxwell Leadership Group and all of that. But I mean, if you had a chance to just look in the camera and tell people one thing right now about what that meant to you in that moment, the process of having someone ask you a very pointed question. I think sometimes we're afraid to do that
Sure.
in the life of somebody that we really do love and care about, and we probably earned the right to say it. But what is it that keeps us from doing that? Is there a point, that you feel like you might want to encourage people to just?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you care about someone, you're willing to say the difficult things, but you have to do it with some grace, right? Do it with some love. You really have to have their best at heart, and they should know that, and you should know that. So you can't be afraid to challenge someone. You were created on purpose for a purpose, and sometimes we do things that don't lean into that purpose.
Mm,
A friend of mine recently said, "What you lean into is what you run to when things get difficult."
mm, mm,
And so, what are you leaning into? Because when things get challenging, you're going to continue, but at a much more rapid pace.
mm.
So, do the things that you lean into help you? Do they make you a better person,
Yeah,
more enriching
yeah,
relationships? And
yeah.
I think that's important,
Mm.
And
That's really good.
yeah,
Yeah. I can think of 2 or 3 times in my life where people who had invested in me and I knew really did care about me. Um, you know, um, I'll share a very personal example of that. When I was in college at Trevecca, I'm much older than Gary by a few years anyway. I was involved in everything a person could be involved in, probably too much. Um, but I thought I could make a difference in everything I got myself involved in. A little bit of an inflated ego, and um, I was scattered. I didn't.
mm,
I was capable of doing really good academic work, but I would usually wait till the last minute, and things like that. And my major professor, and I love Jim Quiggins to this day. Brilliant, communication studies expert, and a wonderful teacher. He was on the administrative council, which is a group of administrators and faculty and students who sign off on anybody who wants to run for an office. And I was a pretty good writer. I won some Scholastic Press awards when I was in high school in Mississippi, and So I decided I wanted to be the Trevecco's editor, the newspaper editor. And back then it was a popular vote. You could run for it. Now you have to apply for it, and a committee selects, the editor. It's been that way for probably 20 or 30 years now. But this is in 1979, 80, and I was wanting to be the Trevecco's editor, and I was told that my candidacy was denied by the administrative council, and I just couldn't believe it. And somebody said, "Well, you need to talk to Jim about it." So here's my major professor, guy that I loved and looked up to, and I thought he thought highly of me, and he actually did. But he said, "Michael, I told the committee that you tend to take on too many different things at a time." And he said, if you ran for Trevecco's editor, knowing you're standing within the campus community, I was pretty sure you would win. And he said, and I didn't think that would be best for the newspaper or for you, because I think you'll struggle with deadlines. Well, man, it just,
Yeah.
I mean, it cut deep when he told me that. And when I look back on it now, that was one of the kindest things anyone ever did for me, because they were honest with me. It wasn't vindictive. He wasn't mean at all in the way that he described it. He was just honest. And it caused me to think, okay, there's some credibility here that I need to earn. He's recognized gifts in me, but if I don't get my stuff together, I'm going to struggle with that. And I would have loved having a shot at being the newspaper editor, but I learned more in that moment by being told no than I would have if I had been told yes and failed in the process. So
That's so good.
Yeah, and I mean, Jim and I still remain very good friends. He's been very kind to say things to me now at this stage of my life, and words of appreciation and admiration, different things like that. It's and just parenthetically, you talk about Don Bowman, I'm talking about Jim Quiggins. Isn't it amazing that? And I know Don sadly, died a few years ago, but isn't it cool to have people who speak into your life when you're a young person, and then you can remain, really tight as you deeply involved and caring for one another. What is one thing that you remember about why you made the decision to go to college where you did? And I'm not necessarily asking for an endorsement or an advertisement for Trevecca. I'm talking about the decision-making process. Do you remember something that flipped the switch for you?
I had some friends in youth group, Jeff Garner in particular, that came to Trevecca. He was a little ahead of me, and so I came down a couple of times his freshman year to just kind of hang out.
Yeah.
Came back again the sophomore year, and just found that it just felt good. It felt home.
Okay.
Felt like it was where I belonged. Now, in full transparency, sometimes I've been known to be a bit of a rebel.
You mentioned that previously.
And so my regional college would have been Mount Vernon Nazarene College. Yeah. And so there was probably a little bit of me that went, if everyone is going that direction, I think I'll go this direction.
It happens.
So sometimes I tend to enjoy swimming upstream. And so a little bit of it was that. But Trevecca was a wonderful place for me. Again, I was running. I was trying to find out what my purpose was.
Yeah.
And I really didn't have many friends there. It's not like all my youth group came to this school. That most of my youth group friends went to a different college.
Yeah.
And it was it was at a freshman event in 1990, so 35 years ago, that I met this man that just acted like he cared, and that I was seen, and I was where I was supposed to be, even if I didn't have it all figured out. And that man was you.
Wow.
And It's an honor to be here. Um, you, you were an amazing influence because I've never known you to do anything half-hearted. Now, sometimes, as it does me, that might get us into the weeds, and we have a tendency to say yes to a lot of things.
Yeah.
But man, I'm glad you said yes to go to Trevecca. I'm glad you said yes to be involved with young people who were all probably trying to figure life out, figure college out, and you were exactly who was supposed to be there for me in that
Thank you,
moment.
Gary. Thank you.
So
I can speak definitively now, having had, worked at Trevecca 2 different times, 85 to 92, and then came back in 1997. I also worked at Southern Nazarene University and Mid-America Nazarene University for shorter periods of time. So I think I've always been drawn to that college age. As I get toward the end of, that part of my life, I mean, I don't know how much longer I'll be working there, but I know that the years in front of me are fewer than the years behind me. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But um, helping young people make that jump from high school years into emerging adulthood, you know, um, sociologists are saying that adolescence lasts longer than it used to. There are lots of different reasons for that. I think I've said it this way: young people are more sophisticated than ever, but I'm not sure they're more mature because they're thrown into this morass of information that's readily available. With a smartphone alone. I mean, there's more computer power in that. I think the example is Apollo 13 when it was trying to make its way back into the Earth's atmosphere. What I'm trying to say is that you're talking about purpose. We're created for purpose, for a purpose, on purpose, for a purpose.
Yeah.
Is that it? I'm going to learn it. I'm going to learn it before this pod's over. The pursuit of finding one's purpose is either very intentional or it's accidental. I mean, that's my observation as I've watched generations of college students come through. And if there's anything, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. One of the most prominent phrases in the Maxwellian world is adding value to other people.
Yeah.
However many years left that I have on this earth, I want to add value to people everywhere I can, but I still particularly have a sense of responsibility and care for young people now that I have grandkids. It's even more acute, but helping young people know that they are loved and cared for and believed in.
Mm-hmm.
If a person feels like nobody sees them or believes in them, man, that's when it can really get off the rails.
Yeah.
What has happened in your life? We don't have time to say everything that happened at Trevecca. Was there aside from that moment when you and I met that you mentioned, what are maybe a couple of other things that you remember happening during that period when you're 19, 20 or whatever, moving into what you're going to do with the rest of your life? Was there something during those college years that you remember being pivotal for you as well?
Yeah, I think there were many things that were pivotal, but I think there were also things that I missed. Bill and Dean Jackson was an older couple.
Okay.
And they were working. They were attending a local church in Nashville, and they decided, really in their retirement years, to go help this very small church that was struggling. And we went there as college students. We ended up staying there. I ended up becoming a part-time staff person there.
Wow. Okay.
After I moved out of Trevecca, I actually lived with Bill and Dean Jackson in their home.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so it was just a wonderful time, again, to be valued, and for people to not even know what was in me that needed called out, but there was something there.
Okay.
And so that was very important to me. I started to read. He's very famous, Tony Robbins, and in one of his books, he talks about there's no such thing as failure. And I was young and I didn't fully grasp that.
Okay.
But I would say not only to young people, but man, even if you're older and you feel like I told my wife 4 years ago,
Okay.
I said, I think I finally figured out why I was created and what I'm supposed to do in life.
Yeah.
And like you, I've passed the mountaintop, right? I'm coming down the backside of the mountain, and I'm asking myself, now how do I maximize that?
Yeah.
And so one of the lessons that I learned at that time, and it took me a while to learn it, is this whole concept of success and failure. And I would chase success thinking that was some sort of a destination, something that you would lay hold of.
Okay.
And as I've gotten older and wiser, at least for me in my life, I've realized two very important things. Number one, failure is good. I'm in the process of writing a book, How Failure Became My Best Friend. Failure gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most important parts of the process of growing.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal for me. And so that really helped, not only seeing value, but understanding that it's not all about setting goals, but it's about growing and being on that journey.
Okay.
And when I was at Trevecca, I was young, and that gave me an opportunity to kind of start to figure that out. And it took a while. We had a professor, Tim Green. He was very challenging to me. He would say things that...
He's still there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. He was very challenging to me. He would say things that challenged what I believed.
Yeah.
Or why did I believe what I believe?
Good.
And it was a good process. It didn't feel comfortable at the time.
No.
It was very awkward. We had some intense fellowship at times. But I think that was one of the best experiences at college. It wasn't so much the subject matter that I was learning, but it was the process of learning that I learned there.
Okay.
And that really helped.
Because we all need to be lifelong learners.
Yes.
We don't, if we just completely go stagnant in that learning process, we're gonna fall back. As cliche as that sounds.
No, but it's a part of the cycle, right? So you try something,
mm-hmm.
and then you fail, and that a lot of people stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it; it didn't work. I'm done.
How many times did Thomas Edison try the light bulb? Isn't it like 300 or something like that? Some crazy number.
Most of us would have quit.
Yeah, right.
Way before then.
Yeah.
So you try something, you fail. Then you start asking the question, okay, what did I learn?
Yeah.
What did I learn?
Yeah.
And then you tweak it, right?
So maybe that's where there's no such thing as failure?
Yes. And then you re-enter. And so as I've matured, I've understood that Tony made a simple statement, but it was very complex because it was failure is a part of our journey.
Okay.
Most people want to separate failure and success, and I believe that they live together.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
Yeah, John says you never are going to change your life until you change something that you do daily. And so it's that idea of consistency compounds over time.
Okay.
It's that incremental success. People who are on a health journey. Every day it's a journey, and some days we make good choices, other days maybe not so good. But you try again tomorrow, right? That's what did I learn? Okay, well, I learned that a box of Oreos probably wasn't a good idea. So you tweak it, and then you try again.
Two at a time. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, this is awesome. Tell me a little bit about your journey, maybe as much as you feel like you want to share personally, about your family a little bit. And then I definitely want to make sure we get to what you've achieved in the business world, and now in more recent terms, what you've been doing to help people in terms of leadership and coaching and different things like that.
Sure.
So, tell me a little bit more about your story post college.
So I left college. My parents were going through a rough patch, and I came home because I thought I could fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents ended up getting divorced. It was Father's Day of 1992. Had with my dad at the Bob Evans there in Grove City.
Okay.
And he got on his Goldwing motorcycle and drove off.
Mm.
And I didn't know if I would see him again, to be
Wow.
really honest. And I did end up seeing him again. He showed up a week before I was scheduled to be married. And, I love my dad. My dad endured things that I just can't imagine how.
Okay.
And in spite of his struggles, I loved my dad and had the poignant discussion. I was young, and I told him I wanted to start my own business. And being a young parent, he was trying to help, and he said, "Well, you can do it if you want, but you'll probably never be as successful as I am."
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my dad had a lot of failure, right?
Yeah.
Try, fail,
Yeah.
try again. And he wanted to protect me from some of those painful experiences.
Gotcha.
He just didn't know how to express it the right
Yeah.
way. And I didn't know how to receive it the right
Sure.
way. And so that did put me on a path of striving and really trying to perform at a high level. And the beautiful thing is, years later, I relocated my dad to Florida. And the last 10 years of my dad's working career, he worked for me.
Oh, my.
And it was beautiful.
That's cool.
I treasure every moment that we shared together.
What's that business?
So that business was a magic shop.
Okay.
It was a childhood dream.
Yeah.
And I too had a broken family. My marriage ended. I got remarried. Have a wonderful wife, Carla, and I had 2 children, Garen and Harrison. She had Jordan and Austin, and just have an amazing family. And so it's been really good. But she encouraged me to go after my dream. And in hindsight, she will admit, like, who's going to buy magic tricks? Like, this will last 6 months and it'll be done, and then we'll move on. And 12 years later,
wow.
we did close the shop. My dad never would have retired.
Yeah.
And he needed to enjoy his latter years in life without having to work.
That's awesome.
Every day. So it was a good experience. But in that process of winding that down, and in the process of trying to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life, I really wanted to add value to people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be there for others in ways that I had hoped would be there for me.
Yeah.
And the truth is, there were people all along the way that wanted to help me.
Yeah.
I didn't always have the wisdom or discernment or maturity to receive the help that was available. I thought, well, I can do it on my own. I can figure this out, which is foolishness, right? We weren't designed to be alone.
No.
We were created to help one another, encourage one another.
Yeah.
And so that caused me to say, okay, what am I going to do? And so I thought, well, I don't have an MBA. And now at the time I had helped grow a business from startup to multi-million-dollar business. And so I'm very blessed, very fortunate to
What industry is that?
That's in the print industry.
Okay.
And so we sell wide format printers and ink
Cool.
and paper, and
right.
We're the Dunder Mifflin of 2025. But
okay. That's great.
But it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a great industry.
Well, and congratulations on the success of that as well.
I appreciate it. And,
I mean, when anybody who does a startup and they last long enough to see the fruits of their labors,
sure, it's not easy.
That's a win.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you had some magic in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You had some printing in your life.
Yep.
But it sounds to me like you were wanting to help people, not in an illusionary sort of way, but you wanted to help them see themselves for what they could be, right?
Very much so.
And that, as cliche as this may sound, that's the best way to print the stamp of approval on a person, is to help them see what they can be, right?
Absolutely. And it's hard. This is the way I explain it. People ask me, why do I need a coach? Or my friends will say, people pay you for that?
Yeah.
I said, listen, let's talk about the greatest of greats. It doesn't matter what we want to talk about. Sports, Tiger Woods had a swing coach.
Yep.
Michael Jordan had a coach.
Yep.
Every great athlete, every great entertainer, singer, musician,
Yeah.
all of those people. Why? Because we all have blind spots.
Mm.
We all have blind spots.
Mm.
We all have a disposition, a propensity. Some people say no too much, and they never say yes to opportunity.
Okay.
And then some of you say, like I do, you say yes to too many things. Heralding back from my magic days, Di Vernon was one of the greatest magicians of all time.
Okay.
At least magicians, we feel that way. We call
Sure.
him the professor.
Okay.
And late in life, someone asked him, how many magic tricks do you know? And I mean, there's thousands. He said, I know 6.
Mm.
And so what his opinion was is find something that you enjoy, that you're good at, right? That you have a natural talent for, and just do that. And he just performed his whole career doing 6 tricks.
That's amazing.
Could have done thousands.
Yeah.
So not only consistency, but focusing on the right thing. And that's what a coach does. A coach sees further. They usually see before, and they can help you navigate some of those blind spots.
You talk about golf. I was women's golf coach at Trevecca for almost 12 years, maybe 13. And I'm not a swing doctor. I mean, I am not a certified swing instructor, but I remember many things from those years. I'm not a great golfer. And I know sometimes the point of what I'm trying to make is it's a lot easier to see. It was easier for somebody to see my swing flaws than it was for me to feel them. Obviously I can't see them unless somebody's videotaping to show me later. But I'm talking about in the moment when I'm swinging, it's a lot easier for somebody else. It's impossible for me to see my swing when I'm swinging. But if somebody's over there, hey coach, your takeaway there is just way too steep.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting how, I mean, in my coaching, one of the best things I did was to help clear the girls' minds, keep them encouraged, because they've already had a lot of training. And that's another, parallel here. We all have a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We've been inundated with information, but sometimes you need someone else to help say, well, the way you're processing this information is resulting in these problems, or have you thought of it this way? You've been processing information that you've been given in a certain way for so long. So coaching, I'm assuming you're talking about you work with a business or a group of individuals who are working on a project together. How do you help someone? First of all, someone has to be willing to be coached, right? I mean, is that step one?
It definitely. I mean, you have to be willing to get better and to put the work in. And not everyone is willing to put the work in.
That's so good. Yeah. It's basic, but that's like the ground floor, right?
Yes.
So what then?
I think it's important to understand their why. It's important that they understand their why. And sometimes that's where you help people the most, is they're conflicted.
Okay.
They have 2 whys going in opposite directions, and then they can't figure out why they can get no traction. That's why. So understanding the why, helping them get solidified on it. In business, we say the riches are in the niches.
Okay.
You can't help everybody, but you can help somebody.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
helping them understand that and narrow the focus is very, very important. And I think that's a big step in that process. Getting them uncomfortable is a big step. We are people of comfort, just like the golf swing. You swing that club the same way because it feels comfortable. When you do get a lesson, even if it's one lesson, if you swing the club, even someone who's not a certified swing doctor will make an adjustment, and that adjustment immediately feels wrong because it doesn't feel comfortable. So you have to trust that process. We've talked a little bit about information. We believe a lot of lies in life, and we tell ourselves a lot of lies. One of them is knowledge is power, and that's false. That is an untrue statement. Applied knowledge is power.
Okay.
Knowledge without application is information, and information doesn't help anyone. So applied knowledge, application.
Wow, that's rich. Yeah.
Because motivation gets you going, discipline keeps you going.
Okay.
And
I hope y'all are taking notes here. This is really good teaching.
You have to understand your why.
Yeah.
And then you have to be applying daily, right, to prepare for that next sales call, that next test if you're a student, right, that next sermon if you're a pastor, whatever your calling is in life, your purpose. The separation is in the preparation. And for some of us, that's difficult. Speaking for some people is horrifying. And for others like us, it's just we wake up and we do it.
Yeah.
And so we run the risk of being casual with our gift.
And not paying the price in preparation, even
correct.
though we have a gift.
Most of the people might go, man, that was wonderful, right? They give you accolades. Oh, that was so good. When people tell me after I get done speaking now, if they come and compliment me and they say, oh, what was so good? My first question, and I may say thank you, but many times I don't. My first question is, tell me what was good. Because if I speak and I inspire you, but there's no transformation, I didn't bring any value to you. So if you can't identify what was good and you can't apply it, then I failed you as a speaker. And so that's how you really add value to others.
We jumped ahead, into what you're doing now. I mean, you still have your digital technology business partnership and all of that. But it seems to me, clearly your passion these days is helping people understand their inherent value as human beings and helping to fan into flame the gifts that they have in them. And so you joined at some point with the Maxwell Leadership organization. What was it that caused you to believe that you needed to have that? I mean, I think you alluded to it. You didn't have advanced degrees, but this Maxwell certification became that for you in a way, right?
It did. It did two things. It gave me tools and resources that were very valuable, but it also put me in alignment and proximity to somebody that I've known for a long time.
Okay.
I had more association and acquaintance with Melvin Maxwell, John's father.
Yeah.
And so John has been a mentor of mine from a distance.
Gotcha.
Originally in books. First book, I still have it. Someone gave me a gift, and it was Developing the Leader Within You. And
a foundational book for me and the way I've done my business.
Yeah.
My work, I should say.
And so joining the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team gave me access to someone who I loved and respected, someone who I learned from. And I was like, you mean I don't have to make stuff up and create things and come up with the next, new thing? These are proven principles that have helped hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people worldwide. Well, why wouldn't I want to tap into that? And I think sometimes people struggle with that a little bit, right? Like pride is a real thing. And we mask pride in a lot of different ways. We want to wrap it in humility. We want to wrap it in, in being casual. But so I had to just make a decision, what's going to help people the most. And because of my age and because of my time, I felt like aligning with an organization that believes what I believe and is committed to helping others, man, that is going to fast track me and give me content and tools and resources to go help people much faster than I could create on my own.
When you say that you aligned with this organization that believes what you believe, that break that down just a bit. What do you mean by what you believe?
I'm a person of faith. If you're not, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not better than anyone, but in my life, I have found that faith is a bedrock for me. Um, John Maxwell was a pastor originally, and has transitioned in many ways to the public eye. Has transitioned into more of a leadership role. He's invited to go all over the world and help people grow through his leadership material. But he still is a person of faith.
Sure.
And so it was important to me not only to have good resources that can help people, but that aligns with my beliefs. And as a person of faith, I know that the resources that I bring people aren't going to undermine them. They're solid principles.
What do you say to skeptics of the whole leadership movement? Because they're out there.
Sure.
They think it's, kind of I don't know, a sales oriented pitch to get people to sign on to this or that. Or they think it's just sort of almost an unrealistic rah, everybody cheerleader kind of thing. I mean, I'm asking the question because I've been confronted with that before. I've been around the Maxwell team in different ways for many years because of my association with the Toller family, particularly Stan. And Stan was a part of the Maxwell group for many years, and so there are people who will look at John Maxwell and others, even Tony Robbins or anybody that's saying, I can help you unlock some keys that will not only change your life, but the lives of people you come in contact with. There's going to be, there are just always people out there that are saying,
sure,
prove it, kind of thing. What
they say that in our lifetime, and again, we're not talking about a Michael Jordan. I'm not talking about a president or an ambassador. I'm not talking about only the 1%.
Really famous.
I'm talking about the person who faithfully serves as a custodian in a school system for 30 years.
Yeah.
That person, just like the president, okay? They say that we influence about 10,000 people in our lifetime. We have a relationship or a connection to speak into them, to influence them.
And is that the ripple effect?
Yes. And so John Maxwell believes, and I believe it too, that leadership is influence.
Right.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity every day to influence others for the good or to influence others for the bad. And so leadership happens every day because influence happens every day.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important to me. And I understand there's skeptics, and sometimes for good cause, because not everyone has pure motives. You have to be careful because motivation can turn to manipulation really quick. And that's a heart issue.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to know, who do you listen to? Show me your 5 closest friends, and we can probably talk about what your future will look like.
Yeah.
And it's because who you choose to learn from matters.
Yeah.
Not everything out there is good, even if it says it is.
Yeah.
So I think we have a responsibility to. The hardest person to lead isn't my business clients. It's not my employees. It's not even my family. Hardest person to lead is me.
Mm.
That's a challenge. I got to go to work every day. And I try and ask myself this question every day. Would I follow me? And some days the answer is no. Some
Wow.
days the answer is no.
That's heavy, dude. Yeah.
So if I want to lead myself well, worthy of the calling that I have,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to ask myself that tough question, would you follow you? Look in the mirror. Would you follow that person?
Mm.
If the answer is no, do something about it.
Mm.
You know?
Mm.
But I would highly suggest that you get somebody in your life that's willing to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. That's really good. That's really good. So, Michael in the Middle, if you've seen one episode, you've seen the way I close every episode, which is to encourage you to get out there in the middle of doing something good for somebody else. That to me, Gary, is at this stage of my life, my why.
Yeah.
I want to help as many people as possible believe that it is possible, that they can positively influence other people for good.
And the difference of that, because we've all been told at some point in our life that's impossible.
Yeah.
And the difference is that one person who can speak into your life in the middle of where you're at.
Yeah.
And just put a slight separation, because they make the impossible and they change it to I'm possible.
I'm possible. That's pretty good. I mean, you've obviously been learning some really good things to say in moments like this, but here's the value added. You really mean it.
Oh, 100%.
You really mean it. And you demonstrably are able to make that kind of thing happen. And I'm just so proud of you.
Well,
I mean, I really am.
You're kind.
And you inspire me to want to do better and be better, and to learn how to do more. I still believe, folks, that we can overcome evil with good. And there's a lot of evil in this world without over spiritualizing it. It's not a stretch to believe that enough good people doing enough good things will have good results in the final analysis. And I think that's what I would want to leave this podcast with today. Any final thoughts on your side of the table there?
I would just say, no matter where you're at in your journey, no matter what you're in the middle of, remember this, that in all of our lives, we have to deal with a storm. We're either going into one, we're in the middle of one, or we're coming out of one. And so, same storm, different boats. So when you see the water being choppy for somebody, lend a hand.
Good.
Give them some encouragement.
Good.
Give them hope.
Yeah.
Let them know that the storm will pass.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for being here with Michael in the middle, and with Gary on the side here. How about that logo in the back? That's pretty cool. See you around.